The other day I mentioned about Buddhism being non-theistic because it doesn't believe in a god at all. It's also not really a faith-based religion. I know the Christianity in that is very much faith-based. You've got to take it on blind faith, what they're telling you, because there's no way they can prove it. Obviously somebody's coming into Buddhism first off, they don't know, so they've got to believe a bit at first, but as they start to get into it and practice and see the way things work according to the rules that have been explained, they become more convinced, and in the end it's no longer a belief, it's just knowledge. But Buddhism, you can actually prove for yourself. So if somebody went to the priest and said, I want to be God, can I be God? Of course not, no chance, you're not God. But if somebody went to a monk and said, I want to be a Buddha, can I be a Buddha? Yes, you can. Anyone can be a Buddha. Any being can be a Buddha, but it's such an extremely difficult task that very few achieve it. Of course, the main way you prove the Dharma is by doing the practice, the meditation. If you do the Vipassana meditation, you get to see for yourself the truth of those, we said before, everything existent in samsara and those 31 realms is subject to those three laws: suffering, impermanence and non-self. And in the meditation you can get to it. Certainly you suffer. Anyone who meditates experiences suffering. If your legs are aching after a long time or whatever. You also experience impermanence because you'll notice things disappear. That annoying dog doesn't bark forever, it gets tired and goes away. That ant running around on the egg eventually goes away. The thoughts, they do go away. Everything goes away, so everything's impermanent. And you eventually realise that none of this is me, none of this is myself. You've got no control over it. It just happens on its own. If the real you was in your eyesight, you'd be able to command it. See only beautiful sights, don't see unpleasant sights. You can't do that. Think only pleasant thoughts, don't think unpleasant thoughts. We can't. We're not in control of any of it. It's just automatic. If you wanted to encapsulate the main Buddhist teaching into one little phrase, it's to do good, to refrain from evil, and to purify the mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. Every Buddha teaches exactly the same thing. Doing good, making merit, creating good karma, giving, meditating, chanting, teaching, studying and all this. Refraining from evil, that means keeping the precepts. By keeping the precepts you're stopping yourself from causing harm and suffering to other beings, and so you're stopping creating the bad karma. Purifying the mind is the meditation. Sometimes the karma, I tell people, if you imagine two water pipes, one's hot and got a red tap and the other's cold and got a blue tap. We're creating karma all the time. Every thought and deed we're creating karma. If it's a positive action, we create a positive karma and it has a positive result. If it's a negative action, it has a negative result. Or there's in the middle, a neutral, has neither good or bad result. But I say we can't cancel out the old karma, but what we can do is overwhelm it. Suppose the hot water is the bad karma, the cold water is the good karma. If we keep those precepts, we're shutting off that tap. We're not producing any more bad karma. And we're opening up, hopefully, the cold tap to make a lot more good karma. Although they don't cancel each other out, If the Buddha said you could take a spoonful of salt and put it in a glass of water, it's so virtually undrinkable, you know. But that same spoonful of salt in a lake, you know, you wouldn't notice it. You wouldn't taste it. So if we made the decision now, you know, we're changing our karma now, we're keeping those precepts. The past, forget it, don't worry about it. But from now on, we're going to virtually stop doing any bad karma by keeping those 5 precepts. And we're going to do as much good as we can. So, you know, we're making the change now and hopefully flooding out the, diluting the bad karma so much that it hardly has a chance to have an effect. And as I say, if we're doing the correct practice, which is vipassana, in this very lifetime we could reach that point of no return, point of safety. There are 4 what they sometimes refer to as Buddhist saints, or the Pali they refer to them as Arya, noble ones. Those who've reached that stage of no return, they're on the way to nirvana. And these 4 states, the one everyone knows, well, most people who know about, is called the Arahant. He is one who has reached the goal, reached nirvana. He's still alive in this final lifetime in the human realm. But when he dies, he will not return, because he's got to a point where he's not producing any more karma. There's no reason for him to return. The reason we're born is because of past karma. So he's all that good and bad karma from the past, when he dies, is lost, wiped out, because it has no more chance to have an effect. He's not going to be reborn again. He's existing in a state of nirvana. That's not another place, another realm like one of, you know, the 32nd of the 31. It's just something too profound for us to really understand. But it's the goal. The goal is to avoid suffering. As long as we're born, we meet suffering, in whatever realm. So if we reach nirvana, we're no longer born, so we no longer suffer. So Arahant is the goal. Some people reach it in a single lifetime, but very few. It's such a difficult task. The next stage down is called Anagami. Anagami we refer to as non-returner. Suppose I reached Anagami in this lifetime. When I die, I hadn't yet got to nirvana, but I'm getting glimpses of it, I'm understanding a lot deeper. And I would not return to the human realm. My next birth would be, in next existence, would be in one of these higher realms. And whilst there, I would achieve, in that lifetime, I would then achieve Arahant, and again not return. The next stage down, the third one, is Sagdagami. Sagdagami means once returner. So suppose I reach Sagdagami in this lifetime. When I die, I could return to the human realm one more time, or maybe a higher realm. And again, I would either reach Arahant or Anagami in that lifetime, and again not come back. The fourth one is the one we really want to be interested in, which is the first of those stages, and that we call Sotapanna, which is translated as stream entry. Stream entry. We call it stream entry because they refer to it like a river. If you imagine the far bank of the river is nirvana, there's the Arahant climbing out onto the bank there, he's got there. In the river on the way across, there's Anagami and Sagdagami. They're on the way, no coming back, they're on their way, guaranteed. This bank of the river is samsara, all the beings in all those 31 realms that haven't yet made that change, reached that point of no return. And there's the Sotapanna, he's just jumped in. He's just entered the stream, he's on his way, there's no coming back. Sometimes I refer to moving escalator in a department store, you know, as Arahant's just getting off the top step, the other two are on the way up, the Sotapanna's just stepped onto the first step. He's on his way up, no coming back, no falling off. Now if we practice Vipassana in this lifetime, do our best to keep it up. We're almost certain to reach Sotapanna in this lifetime. And then, now Sotapanna has two very good things once you reach it. One, you are guaranteed to reach Arahant, therefore Nirvana, and escape in a maximum of 7 more lifetimes. 7's nothing compared to the past, the infinite past, is it?
Yeah.
Those who are still on this bank and haven't yet made that change, they could be born another lifetime, 10 lifetimes, 1,000,000 lifetimes, 1,000,000,000 eons, you know, who knows? So it's up to them. Now, so that's one big advantage. We're very close. You know, you could put up with 7 more lifetimes, even if they were all in the human realm and all real shitty lives. If you know that you're on the way, you know, you'd be past the point where you care about suffering. You know, the goal's there, you're on the way. The other advantage is, of course, that when you die as a stream enterer, you can only be reborn in the human realm or higher realms. So those 4 lower realms of suffering and woe, the hell realms, animal realms, hungry ghosts and what, they're blocked off.
You can't get to them.
You can't get to those anymore. So that's great, you know, nobody wants to suffer. All right, we still suffer in the human realm, but compared to those realms, it's nothing. You know. So that's the real goal. You know, before you get to the 4th step, you've got to go through the 1st step anyway. So that's the first immediate goal, you know. Some people think Arahant, oh, it's too hard to reach, I'm not good enough to be, how could I reach that in one lifetime? Forget about that, you know, that's not the immediate goal. The immediate goal is Sotapanna. It is much more. Even women sometimes, they might come to the monks and say, you know, can I get to Nirvana? And some of the monks, they say, oh yes, yes, sure, you make lots of merit, do good, give to, you know, and when you die, maybe you'll be born as a man, you know, and then you can become a monk, you know. So it's an exclusive thing of monks, you know, Nirvana. It's not, you know, and women do it. As I say, I've got that book about that female nun who reached Arahant in the after. So, but we learned from our teachers, and if the teachers didn't understand and taught us wrong, we'd copy what they taught us. So, anyway, so that's our goal, the stream entry. All religions, some people say to me often, oh, all religions are the same really, they all teach you to be good. Sure, they do, but is being good good enough? Being good gets you what? Suppose I'm good, I keep those 5 precepts and I'm good and make lots of merit and do good, helping people. Good karma brings a good result. What's the good result?
Maybe not going to
a better rebirth. A better rebirth, either back in the human realm, maybe richer, more comfortable, intelligent, or whatever, you know, high-born or something, or maybe in the higher realms, in the heaven realms and things where life's very comfortable. But you're still being reborn. The Buddha's trying to get us to stop being reborn by reaching the goal, nirvana. Just getting reborn is not the goal. So being good isn't good enough. You've got to practice that vipassana and aim for nirvana, to escape altogether. And unless you put in the effort, you won't get there. Nobody gets to nirvana by accident. You've got to put in the effort and do it yourself. You do the walking, nobody else can do it for you. So just being good is fine. Other religions, of course, they don't know anything about. I once went to pick my kids up at school. It's a Christian school actually. It's a private school, not a government school. And one of the women selling snacks and that outside the school when the kids come out of school. I was buying something from her, and she says, naturally, see, a lot of Thais assume that most Westerners are Christian. And she said, do you go to church? I says, oh no, I changed to become a Buddhist many years ago. She says, oh, well never mind. She says, you come with me, I'll come take you along to the church and introduce you to God. I says, no, that's all right, I've had all that, I don't need that. I says, she said, you won't go to heaven? I don't want to go to heaven. Well, you'll go to hell. I says, no, I don't want to go to hell either, I want to go to nirvana. She didn't know what to say, no answer. Because, you know, the other religions don't teach nirvana, they don't know nirvana, they don't know the goal and the way to get there. Only Buddhism has that. And so, they can't teach what they don't know. They're good, the religions are trying to teach people to be good, but they're incomplete, they haven't got the whole story. And so, they can't teach what they don't know. So their adherents are missing out. But we say, well, that's unfortunate, but it's the karma of the people to be born and into that religion and not meet Buddhism. Those people like Thais get that wonderful opportunity to meet Buddhism. If they then turn around and convert to Christianity, they've thrown away a golden opportunity. But that's their karma. We can't do anything about it. It's just a crying shame. But, I said before about this thing called an eon, didn't I? How very long it is. There are two kinds of eons. There is an empty eon and a non-empty eon. Empty eons have no Buddhas at all, no great beings. The non-empty eons have Buddhas. Some have a single Buddha. Some have 2 Buddhas, some have 3 Buddhas, some have 4 Buddhas, some have 5 Buddhas. But many thousands of eons go past with no Buddhas at all, These eons which do have Buddhas are very rare and precious. We have in now just such an extremely fortunate eon which has 5 Buddhas. And this Buddha whose teaching we are studying now, the Gautama Buddha, he is the 4th. So there is one more yet to come. When people worried about, 2012, the world's coming to an end, no. Maybe the world as you know it, but the planet's not going to be destroyed. We're due yet another Buddha to come, you see. So, I don't think anything's going to happen before then. So, not only are we extremely fortunate to be born human in this lifetime, we're not crippled. We can move around, go and visit temples and things. We're not deaf and blind. We can read the Dharma books. We can listen to the teachings. We're not low intelligence, unable to comprehend them. We're not in a country where we have no chance to study religion as we wish. Sometimes in the communist countries they didn't like any religions. They like the state to be everything to the people and not give them anything else as a prop. If you're born in a Muslim country, you might find it difficult to turn around and start believing in Buddhism because you'd probably be persecuted by the rest, maybe even the family, maybe even killed. And you're born in the middle of the Amazon jungle, you know nothing about any of the world's religions, So we're very lucky to be born in a position where we're able to meet. I say to people who come here, you might think it was an accident, saw something on Facebook and Temple Stone, that's interesting. Actually, your karma has been bringing you here, you've been brought here. Just to be born human is a result of good karma from the past, because it's such an extremely difficult thing to achieve. But to be born human and to meet Buddhism, be in an eon when there's Buddhas, 5 Buddhas, be alive when a Buddha's teaching is still available. It's not died out yet. To come and meet so many pluses on our side, it's an incredible, not coincidence, but it's an incredible opportunity which hopefully we shan't waste.
Who are the other Buddhists?
I forget the names of them, but they are in the text. Naturally, this Buddha, he talked about the past and the future. He mentioned about the next Buddha, who's known as the Buddha Maitreya, that big fat Buddha image of on the hills. It's supposed to be an image of him, but that's just people's imaginations. But when a Buddha, Buddhas, there are 3 different kinds of Buddhas. Full Buddhas, this is full teaching Buddhas. You get silent Buddhas, called Pacceka Buddhas, who become Buddhas in self-enlightened, but they're not able to teach. That's why they're called silent Buddhas. But full Buddhas, full teaching Buddhas, Samma Buddha, is 3 kinds. One of them, he practices as a bodhisattva, training himself in the perfections to eventually become a Buddha for a long period of 4 Asankara and 100,000 eons. The second type practices for 8 asankaya and 100,000 eons, and the third type for 16 asankaya and 100,000 eons. This present Buddha Gautama, he practiced for 4 asankaya and 100,000 eons. So the next Buddha, Maitreya, will have practiced for 16 asankaya and 100,000 eons. We said how long an eon is, but the number of... An asankaya is a number which only refers to... It's such a great length of time, it only refers to Buddhas, how long they have to train themselves for as bodhisattvas. It's actually referred to in the scriptures often as an incalculable period. But it is actually calculable, because it's supposed to be 10 to the power of 140. So if you take 1 followed by 140 zeros, that is 1 asankaya. So he was practicing for 4 asankaya plus 100,000. These are eons we're talking about, not lifetimes or years, but so it's just mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah. So we respect, because we understand how long he was training himself, putting up with being reborn. He met several Buddhas in his lifetimes. He might have trained with them, become monks and reached nirvana then, but he didn't, because his goal was to become a Buddha himself in the future. And in the future the Buddha has to be self-enlightened, not receive teaching from anyone else. The Buddha also mentioned, when we were talking about how difficult it is to get to the human realm, if you're in one of the 4 lower realms, the chance to get back to being more human again is extremely rare. The Buddha said, suppose the planet is covered in ocean. Floating on this ocean is a big wooden yoke, you know, a wooden cartwheel. You take out the hub and the spokes, you're left with the actual rim, which is called the yoke. There's this big wooden yoke floating on the ocean, pushed this way, that way by wind and waves and tide, could be anywhere on the ocean. Living in the ocean is an old blind turtle, and once every 100 years this turtle comes up to the surface. What would be the chance upon coming to the surface that his head would come through the middle of this ring? They could both be anywhere in the ocean, you know? So very slim chance. He said that more difficult than this is the chance to get back to the human realm once you're in those lower realms. So it's nobody wants to go into those lower realms. It's hard to escape from. Probably the hardest to escape from is the animal, because as I said, they're living in a state of ignorance, not high intelligence, no chance to make merit, do good, but they'd still have the chance to create bad karma. You look at a tiger, alright, it's a tiger's nature to kill to eat. It has to kill to eat. You can't go shopping in Tesco's, can it? So, although it doesn't intend to kill for the sake of killing, it has to kill to eat. So it's still causing suffering to some creature, and that is bad karma going into its bad bank account. But it's relative also, you know. Suppose there's a native living in the jungle in a little grass hut, and he kills things like deer and pigs to eat as well, same as the tiger does. But he's a human, he's got higher intelligence, he's got more choices, you know, he could grow more vegetables if he wanted and things. So him killing the deer or the pig for food probably acquires more bad karma for the same act than the tiger would get. And then you've got some rich guy in the city who can go shopping in Tesco's, but he chooses to go out hunting, you know, just for the pleasure of it. And he probably earns more karma for the bad act than the jungle dweller does, you know. So things are very relative, you know, karma-wise, both good and bad. Depends on the karma of the person creating the karma and the one receiving it. So when people give food in the mornings to a monk on the alms round, they get more merit if they're giving to a fully ordained monk than they do to a novice who's only on 10 precepts. They say keeping the 8 precepts staying in a temple, keeping the 8 precepts, not even staying in a temple at home, but keeping those 8 precepts for a day and a night earns more merit than spending money to build half a dozen temples. Giving is the first step, but it's relatively easy. A beggar giving 10 baht probably earns a lot more merit than a millionaire giving, a few thousand. It's not the amount, it's relative to very many things. As far as making merit is concerned, doing good, there are actually 10 different kinds on the list. The first, as we said, was giving. In Pali it's referred to as Dharma, giving. So giving alms in the morning, bringing offerings into the temple, donating robes to the monks and building temples, donating money to various projects like that. Printing Dharma books, distributing Dharma books and things. That's all giving. That's the basic step. It helps us to get rid of selfishness, The Thais giving alms in the morning. It's a nice way to start the day off by giving to other people. Sets you up nicely. The second, sila, is the precepts. So keeping those precepts is a lot more difficult than giving. It requires more personal effort. So you make more merit from keeping the 5, or the 8, or the 10, or whatever, 227. Teaching the Dharma to other people. You go home, what you've learned from me, if you tell somebody and help them, you're earning merit just by teaching, I'm earning merit while I'm teaching you. Studying, sitting here listening to me, reading the Dharma books, you're earning merit from that. You're using your time and energy. You could be playing around, having a good time, but you're trying to study and improve yourself and learn something important. And so you earn merit from that. Working. You often see when there's a funeral in Thailand or somebody's housewarming or something, the village community come and help put up tents and prepare food. The women do the shopping and cook the food, serve the food, wash up the dishes. The men put up the tents and chairs and tables and do any physical labour. They're not getting paid for it. They're just doing it. It's community spirit. It's the thing that they do. So they're making merit by helping other people, using their energy. Even a beggar could come and help physically. He doesn't have to have money. A lot of Thais get the idea that if you've got to be making merit, you've got to be spending money, but that's not true. The more difficult, there are things which earn more merit and more difficult and require more personal effort. Showing respect to those who deserve respect. You see in the Thai schools, they'll always have a teacher stood by the gates in the morning and evening when the kids are coming in and out of school, and you see the kids whine. They're taught to why the parents when they leave home, why the parents when they get back. Showing respect to those who deserve respect. Parents, teachers, monks, etc. You don't respect some politician because he's got a big name and thinks he's great. If he's an idiot, you don't have to. Respect, as we know, has to be earned. It doesn't come with the position. So even when I was a monk and doing the alms round in the morning, I'd walk along and you get a lot of school kids on their way to school. I would always try and catch their eye and give a little smile. Some of them would just walk past and they'd lost an opportunity. Some would stop and they'd give you a nice little wire, which is showing respect. Just by that act, costs them nothing. It doesn't cost a penny. Just showing respect, and they make merit from that. So those who don't bother, they're missing an opportunity. Congratulations. So when you see somebody else making merit, you congratulate them, just in your own head, or say well done. Somebody might come back and say, oh, I just spent a week in the temple meditating. Oh, well done, good. Shows you've got a good mindset. You're driving a motorcycle in the morning and see a couple with their little kid giving alms to a monk in the morning, you just sort of mentally oh, that's nice to see, You congratulate him, and you hear the Thais say this Pali word, anumotana, which means well done, congratulations. And the monks will say it sometimes. If you make merit, they might say anumotana, congratulating you on making merit. So you make merit just by congratulating other people. Sharing merits. when you've done something like chanting or meditating, here at the back there's these little stanzas, how to share merits. The aspirations, that's wishing all beings and yourself to be happy and have no suffering, and then transferring the merit you just made, whether it's alms round or whatever, or meditation, to your parents, teachers, relatives, all beings in the higher realms, all beings in the lower realms, and may all beings be happy. That's sharing the merit, so that's another way of making merit. You see the Thais have got this little ritual they do with the water, pouring the water. That's a physical sort of ritual of the same kind of thing. You can just mentally go through these, wishing the merit to be spread to other beings, or you can do that. That's one way they like to do it.
But their intention is...
Yeah, the intention is to share the merit mostly with their past relatives. Those who've died, they don't know where they took rebirth, so hoping to give them, if one of them had taken an unfortunate rebirth, you know, the merit might help reduce their sentence, if you like. So meditation is the hardest thing of all to do, and so that requires the greatest amount of merit of all. In the chanting they do in the evenings there, they do, you know, half an hour or more chanting and about 10 minutes meditation. They'd actually make a lot more merit if they did half an hour's meditation and just 10 minutes chanting, but that's the way they... Rites and rituals get caught up in religions, all religions, and some people think their rites and rituals are more important when they're not, you know. But... And then the last of those 10 ways to make merit is having correct view, meaning realizing that the Buddha was what he did. He came and taught and helped reach nirvana, and having a correct view that there is rebirth, there are different realms, there is the law of karma, which has effect, not just happenstance, chance, or whatever. But, so if you've got these correct views, if you're somebody like a modern atheist who doesn't believe in any of that, doesn't believe in afterlife, rebirth, heaven, hell, karma, or anything, thinks it's all just an accident, a scientific. That's considered wrong view by the Buddhists. So if you've got wrong view, you often might not be interested in carrying out the other ways of making merit. You know, you won't be bothered with spending your time meditating, and probably won't even bother to keep the precepts. It might tend to make you rather selfish, because you might think, well, I've got this one and only life, and so I'm going to have a good fun. You know, even if it's at the expense of other people or other animals. The Islamic religion teaches its people that killing those who are not Islamic isn't really much of a sin, you know. Right. The Christians teach that it's wrong to kill a person, but animals were put here on earth by God for our use, for our food or whatever, and so they don't think it's wrong to kill animals. Buddhists think it's wrong to kill any being. Every being wants to live, and life is precious for them, and even a mosquito flies away and tries to escape if you go to hit it. Life is precious for all beings, so we have no right to remove it if we can help it. You know, we do our best to avoid even ants. We try walking around. You can't go looking and sweeping the floor like the Jains to try and avoid walking on it. But you don't unnecessarily. You know, if I left my coffee cup, with a few dregs in, it's sweet because I put a lot of sugar in my coffee. You might have a few ants coming down and drink. You want to drink your coffee. You don't just pour hot water on them and dish them out. You know, you're killing them. So you go to the cold tap and try and rinse them out and throw it onto the ground. They survive quite a fall, you know. Being in water, they just get up and walk off, rather than killing them unintentionally, you know. Just do your best to avoid unnecessary killing. How are we doing for time?
Almost fine.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that prickly heat stuff, that works pretty well, as you can see.
They try and avoid that usually. That's probably a bit irritating to them.
Of course it is, yeah. That's a question, is because it causes them to suffer.
Well, we treat it as sometimes these sprays even, you know, you try and use them as a deterrent rather than a kill, you know, but it's not easy.
Is it bad karma to annoy the ants?
To annoy them, well, if you're, yeah, I mean, it's bad karma to annoy anyone or anything, you know, just for the sake of annoying. It's, but, you know, we do a lot of things, particularly when we're kids and we don't really know much about it. We do things, I mean, when I was a kid, I probably used a catapult and knocked a bird down one time, and I had a shotgun and went out hunting sometimes, but I enjoyed just being out in the nature and seeing the different birds and animals. I didn't really get much, it wasn't important to me. Yeah, I used to love fishing, you know, that was my #1 hobby from the age of 7, and I did it as often as I could. I had so much equipment and hooks and everything, but when I learned more about karma, I just stopped. Even though I did my best always to try and avoid harming the fish, you know, using barbless hooks or whatever, unhooking and releasing them straight away instead of putting them in a net.
Yeah.
You're still causing them to suffer, so I decided to just stop. Now, I haven't really got time to go into the full story of the Buddha's birth, but most stories about the Buddha's life start off when he's born as a kid in Nepal, which is the area north of India there, where at that time the kingdom where he was born, what is now Nepal and North India, and they start off with his birth, but his story actually starts a long time ago than that, when he first became a bodhisattva and wanted to become a Buddha. And at that time he was a man called Sumedha, a long time ago, 4 Asankara and 100,000 eons ago. There was a town called Amaravati, and he was a Brahmin called Sumedha. And his parents were very wealthy, but they died and left him all their wealth. So the keeper of the treasure house came along and said, "What do you want to do with all this treasure?" And he thought to himself, well, my parents didn't take with them a single copper coin, you know, but I'm going to take it with me. So what he did was he gave it all away. So the merit he made was his to keep. Nobody could destroy it, nobody could steal it, couldn't be destroyed by fire or was lost or whatever. Once you make merit, it's yours. So he gave everything away and then went off into the jungle and started to meditate. And he achieved the jhanas and reached some of these special powers. One day he was coming near the city and saw the road there. People were all digging and cleaning up and decorating. And, oh, what's going on? Oh, Buddha's coming. But he thought, Buddha? Hearing the word Buddha is very rare and precious. To actually meet the Buddha in person, even rarer. So, oh, well, can I have a bit of the road to do? And so he didn't use his magic powers, he uses his own effort to help clean up. And there was a hole there, and when the Buddha came along with his long retinue of monks and followers, he lay down in the hole so that the Buddha would walk across him. And whilst he was laying there, he was thinking to himself, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to become a Buddha in the future? You know, to teach people the truth. And so he thought, yeah, I would like to become a Buddha in the future. He made the aspiration to become a Buddha in the future. And the Buddha approached, and he knew what he was thinking. And he says to his followers, see this Brahmin laying down on the... He's currently making the aspiration to become a Buddha and using the power of the Buddha to see into the future. And he says, and I can confirm 4 Asankara and 100,000 eons hence, he will become a Buddha. His parents will be named so-and-so, so-and-so. He will live in so-and-so city. You know, they could make predictions like that. So that's when he started. Because many people who have great respect for the Buddha and are into Buddhism, particularly monks, sometimes desire themselves, I'd like to be a Buddha in the future. You know, you could go and make the vow. From that moment on, you are actually a bodhisattva, but you're only unofficial. It only becomes official when you make the same aspirations in the presence of a real Buddha. It's not easy to meet a real Buddha anyway. So from then on, it's official. So he then started out his journey. During that time, from that Buddha on until when he became the Buddha himself, he met 24 other Buddhas. In that whole long period, 4 Asankaya and 100,000 years, he met only 24 other Buddhas. And they also confirmed for him that he would eventually make it to Buddha. So that's when his story really started.
Now, when someone reaches arahant,
Yes.
and achieves nirvana, they can still aspire to become a Buddha, or do you become
they can't,
devoid of
because
even
to
the...
become a Buddha you've got to be a bodhisattva, training themselves for that long time.
Yeah.
See, as I say, if Sanada had joined the retinue of that Buddha at that time and become one of his monks, he probably could have reached arahant in that lifetime, and that would have escaped in nirvana already. But no, he chose to stay and struggle on and on and on and on throughout those billions and billions and billions of lifetimes, in order to eventually perfect himself enough to become a Buddha and help spread the teaching. You know, to help, it's such a terrible long task. You know, they do have a few advantages given to them, a bodhisattva, to help them on their way a little bit. So, if they do, because of karma, they're still creating karma for all those lifetimes. If they do go to the hell realm, they don't go to the deepest hells. They never become hungry ghosts. If born in the animal realm, they're never tiny creatures, nothing smaller than a bird. If they go to the heaven realms, they don't go to the highest heavens where it's just non-material bliss and all that, just the lower heavens. But most of their time is spent in the human realm, where they can do the most work, helping people and things like this. When in the human realm, they're never born blind, never born crippled, never born deaf. They're never born female. This is not discrimination against females, but females do have a hard time. Females suffer from 5 kinds of suffering which males don't suffer from. They suffer from pregnancy, childbirth, close attending on the child after its birth, born, just being born female.
I would think menstruation would be
a
part of that.
Probably one of them. Just being born female is a disadvantage in most ages and times and nations. They've always been treated as second best, behind the male. Less in the Islamic world, a wife is virtually a chattel, a belonging of the husband. He could virtually beat her to death without anyone saying anything. You know, so we're going to get a rough time of it. You know, so to give him a slight advantage, he's never born in a position where he's easily overwhelmed. So therefore, he's a bodhisattva right up until that final moment when he reaches enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. So his final life, he's male too. He can never be a female Buddha, because he's a bodhisattva right up until that time. It's not discriminatory, it's just he's trying to ease his situation a little bit.
So to be a Buddha is to never achieve nirvana, or is to be a Buddha is to never achieve nirvana?
Buddha achieves nirvana. When he becomes enlightened under the tree, he breaks through to nirvana, becomes arahant, becomes nirvana, becomes self-enlightened Buddha, because he hasn't received... See, the arahants, they get taught by the Buddha.
Yeah.
We get taught by the Buddha, but he didn't get taught by any Buddha. The thing is, the teachings die out. Everything, as we say, is impermanent. Yeah. So this very Buddha here now, his teaching is predicted to last for 5,000 years. We're now 2,500 years after he died. So there's another 2,500 years to go, and after that, roughly, the teaching will be lost. Already now the teaching's deteriorating, you know, not getting the same accurate teaching as before. The monks themselves are not always practicing as they should be. So we're going downhill, you know, and you'll come to a point where the teachings are lost altogether. The Buddha said there will always be arahants as long as there's people teaching and practicing the vipassana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Once they're no longer taught, there's no chance of being Sotapanna or any of the other 4 stages.
The Buddha's ultimate goal is to become a teacher.
Well, the main goal is to reach enlightenment themselves and teach others how to become enlightened themselves as well. So they haven't had any teacher. See, his teaching dies out after 5. Then there's a long period of darkness and ignorance until the next Buddha comes along, rediscovers the same lost truth and teaches it again. They all teach exactly the same Dharma, the same 4 foundations of mindfulness, because it's the truth, the ultimate truth. There's not many ultimate truths, there's only one. So they all teach exactly the same Dharma.
If you're striving to become a Buddha, ultimately it's just a great act of selflessness.
So compassion for all beings. Compassion is like love for all beings combined with pity, but they're suffering, you know. You see people suffering. I don't hate Christians. I feel sorry for them because they're not getting the full story, the full picture, the details on really what life's all about and how to reach nirvana. I feel sorry for them. I try to love all beings equally, you know, but you have compassion for all beings, and that's what a Buddha does. It's out of compassion that he wishes to help beings escape suffering, escape the cycle of samsara.
That's actually pretty honourable.
Well, it's just why we respect the Buddha so much. Such a our greatest teacher, you know.
Spend eons and eons just to be able to help people.
Yeah, billions of, oh my God. Well, so to have received these teachings as we are now, we are incapable of becoming Buddhas.
No. Yeah, I mean, unless you've reached stream entry. Once you've reached stream entry, you've jumped in, you're on the way, you're close to nirvana already. You've got maximum of 7 lives before you reach nirvana. So you couldn't make the aspiration to become a Buddha because you wouldn't make it.
Why would you want to? Because
but I mean, it's too late. But then again, who's to say that an arahant, once he's died, is existing in this state of nirvana? Who's to say that he cannot take on a human form, come back as a monk, looking as though he's a monk, sat in the forest, and people come and get teachings from him?
Right.
He might be able to, well, he'd have many special powers, I would imagine, once you've reached nirvana. They say it's a bit like a drop of water returning to the ocean, but retaining its single identity as a separate drop. So you're back with all nature, all beings. You realise we're all one and all the same, and if you hurt one being, you're hurting yourself. So you love all beings equally. So I'm sure you'd be in contact with this mass consciousness, this mass memory that they refer to as the Akashic record or whatever. That's same as Edgar Cayce was in contact with, to see people's symptoms and how to treat them. You know, the monk who was my teacher at the temple down in Boca, he could see people's past karma and advise them. It's a source of knowledge, like a big library or data bank there, everything that ever happened to every being. And some people can access this data bank. And the future, of course, seeing the future is not so easy, because it's only probabilities, not definite.
That's right.
It's only possible or probable, but not certain. Yeah. Okay then.
I think we're good. Done good.
This was a good talk.
Yeah, I have countless
Good.
questions keep
I'll try not to count them.
popping up. And they're not critical of necessarily what you said, but just trying to interpret the fact that impermanence and in these universes and all that would obviously mean that even nirvana can come to an end, or no?
Nirvana is the only thing
that is not
outside of those 3 laws of conditioned existence. Everything within samsara, the 31 realms, is conditioned, but nirvana's outside of that.
Right.
That's your free pass.
Yeah.
To get away from. Wow. So I mean,
The Buddha said, don't try to imagine what nirvana's like.
No,
you waste your time. You never come up with that. So just don't try to think about how the world began, where mankind came from. They're unanswerable questions. You could either drive yourself mad, but at the very least you're wasting time that you should be spending practicing.
Right.
If you get there, you'll know already.
Right. Wow. I guess I don't have to. I have a bunch of questions, but I guess I'll have to.
Ask any.
They'll have to come to me because I really don't.
Don't worry about it. Do you want to write them down sometime if you want to?
It really is all very
even when you've gone back home, you can still contact me on Facebook or Skype or something, and we can have face-to-face chats on Skype.
You know, my question is, where can I meet someone with those abilities?
Who's an arahant?
Yeah, where can I meet somebody?
They're not very easy to meet because often they don't declare themselves.
Right, isn't the
Obviously,
idea that they're not
And those
supposed
who are
to,
are swamped by people
Right, yeah.
seeking to make merit, because making merit with them makes a lot more merit than just an ordinary monk. You know?
Right.
but merit with the intention to gain more merit by
Yeah, I
meeting
know.
that
That's
person,
I say to
reduces
people
you.
that's immature.
That's
You know,
right,
a kid loves to get toys,
Yeah.
but as we're adults, we get more pleasure by giving and seeing the joy in other people's faces.
Yeah.
So it's more mature. Those who are shallowly into Buddhism, you know, they like to make merit, hoping to gain lots of good merit in the bank so that they can get a better rebirth. But actually, somebody who realises the truth, they'll do good just for the love of doing good,
Without
not
any
hoping to
thanks-
get
without
anything in
any
return.
thanks or
Not
any
hoping to get
recognition.
anything in return.
Right.
And that's the more mature way, isn't it?
I have a question, and it goes back to like you know, the Native Americans, and you know, when they would kill an animal, they would go to the animal, they would thank the animal, they would thank
They would use every last bit of it.
every last bit of it, and they would appreciate it and be very humble in accepting it.
Many of these native cultures, you know, even the hill tribes in Thailand now that still keep their animist beliefs, they often would do something similar, you know,
Yeah.
like almost saying a prayer over the corpse, you know, before.
Right. Now, how would that would that lessen the bad merit? Or
It
would
wouldn't
that-
lessen the bad merit, but at least maybe it would stop maybe it would help prevent the animal trying to take revenge. Because you kill somebody, say I killed you now, stuck a knife in your chest, while you're dying you might decide, hate me and be angry at me and wish to take revenge on me, you know? So you're creating a karmic link with me, and there's a good chance we'll meet again in the future sometime and you'll come back and kill me. And it goes back and forth, like a feud, you know?
Yeah.
The only way to stop a feud is for one side to refuse to fight.
You gotta break the cycle.
I mean, Gandhi was, you know, non-violence. And this is the only way to be, really. You know, if you're a Buddhist country, see like Tibet or Thailand, they're very easily overcome by nations or leaders who are
Violent.
immoral, you know, because they're not prepared to fight back. You see?
But in the scope of Buddhism, that is the karma of, say, the nation. So
Yeah,
perhaps.
of course.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's so
Well,
profound.
nations do create karma together. I mean, the Israel nation, the Japanese nation, the American nation, you know.
Well, American nation is suffering from its karma.
It's suffering from
Suffering
its own
from very
karma.
bad governments.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's not the president going and doing all these acts himself. He might
No, he's
he
a
might
puppet.
order them, but
He's a puppet.
yeah, they're all puppet. But I mean, the men under him are who are doing these actions, you know, are responsible as well. That's why you don't want to rush to be a boss, you know, in charge of many people, because you're also responsible for their actions. In charge of a company making weapons, you're getting the karma from not just yourself, but from
the
weapon produced.
the other people, you know.
People
So-
that use them.
So that's why somebody who's really interested in going for nirvana, he doesn't want to be rich and famous and important. He wants to withdraw and not make any noise and just get on with his practice. And you know, most people want to be the number one, be important, be famous, be rich. That's all ego driven, you know.
Right.
It's running in the opposite direction from nirvana.
Now you've answered this, or this is something you touched on at first, but I don't remember. Is there a finite amount of beings, or no, there isn't. Right? It's impossible to even.
Well, I mean, a finite now. I know the Christians are. They say when they're born, it's like a new soul is being created.
Yeah,
But that, you know, same as when people say, well, how come there's more people on the earth now than there was a few years ago? Where are they coming from? Well, so they're being reborn from the other realms. You know, many beings, as I say, the human realm is the tiniest of all.
That's right. The thumbnail of the sand.
So, I mean, the number of beings is just incalculable. And somebody says, well, what about when they all reach nirvana? It's almost impossible to imagine. You know,
That was going to be
those
my question.
who are Buddhists, who are interested to reach nirvana. Just don't get there easily with just by being interested. You've got to put in the effort, do that work, do that practice. Not easy at all.
No.
Of all this community here, you know, I mean, this local community, so many people, you know, of 10,000 people or whatever, I don't know, a few thousand people.
It's about 10,000.
How many actually come to the temple? You know, on a Buddha day you might see 100, a couple of hundred, you know.
Maybe, yeah.
Of those, how many are doing their real best to keep the 5 precepts? They're a bit of good, bit of bad, bit of good, bit of bad. So how many are really doing the meditation? Or is it just concentration meditation? How many are practicing vipassana with the nirvana as the goal? Very, very few. Most are just hoping for a better rebirth, maybe to go to heaven or something.
That's right.
So that's, you know, tiny percentage really.
It reminds me of what we were talking about earlier, and just the short-sightedness
Yeah.
of people. But I imagine many people are just like, well, let me just enjoy this
Yeah.
life, and if I can come back the next one, then I'll just...
You don't know. I mean, when you come back next time,
Could be.
this teaching could be lost already. You might
Yeah.
not be able to meet it again.
Yeah. That's
So you've
why
got to
we're
wait
so
a long, long
lucky.
time before the next Buddha comes. And before the next Buddha comes, we've got to go down to the low point. As I say, everything in nature works in cycles. The human lifespan works in a cycle as well. The low point is 10 years. And there's that big war when most beings are killed and the survivors come out and think, God, we've got to start being moral again, keeping the basic precepts, you know, stop killing and lying and stealing. And then they start to recover. And nature recovers as well because it's obviously been decimated as well. And so they eventually reach the high point. You know what the high point is? The lifespan of humans?
No.
10. Right?
100? No, 100? No, lifespan. I don't know.
See, when a Buddha he's finished his training as a bodhisattva, done all those 4 Asankara and 100,000 eons and that, and he's there in the Tushita heaven, number 9 in that list, the Tushita heaven, waiting for his turn to come down and be reborn. You never see it. 9, Tushita, Bodhisattva's penultimate existence. So he's sitting there waiting for the time to be right to come down and become the next Buddha. And some of the things he has to decide. 1, what is the lifespan of humans? He can only come when the lifespan is decreasing. Decreasing. And he can also only come when it's between 2 limits. If it's less than 100 years, life's so much trouble and strife that people hardly have any interest in religious matters. So he doesn't come then. This one was born when it was just 100 years.
Wow, so he's on the cusp of...
And it's still going down. The high point is 100,000 years.
No way.
So the human lifespan goes from a low of 10 to more than 100,000 years. This next Buddha, he is due to come when the lifespan of humans has dropped to 80,000 years. The first of the 4 Buddhas in this eon, this present one, the 4th one, Gautama, he came when the lifespan was 100. The first one in this eon came when the lifespan was 60,000 years. The second, 40,000 years. The third, 20,000 years. The 4th, 100 years. The next one will come when it's 80,000 years.
That is after destruction and greed.
So we've got to go through that low point, destruction, you know, where all morals are lost. Why would you think people would live for only 10 years? You know, the air would be polluted, the water would be polluted,
right.
the food would be very poor quality.
Yeah.
It's getting that way, isn't it?
It sure
It's
is.
heading that way. But afterwards you've got that survival and you know, humans and nature gets its chance to regrow, reach its full potential. So when somebody's 10 years old, you think they'd be as big as you? They wouldn't have that time to grow. They'd be like midgets.
Yeah.
But when their lifespan 100,000 years or more, they're like giants. This next Buddha, he comes, the lifespan is 80,000 years. His lifespan is 80,000 years. Now, they know what his height will be. The average female will be about 55 cub. the male will be about 65 cube, same as a cubic. And yeah, the Buddha himself will be 85 cube. So it'll be a height of 85 cubits. What's a cubit? Span of a hand.
Oh, 85 hands.
The Thai cube is the same as the cubit. So this length here of the forearm is 2 cubits, which is called a sok. The Thais call that a sok. This is a cube, this is sort of 2 cubits, 1 sok. From here to here is a meter, but this is a wire.
Oh, wow.
The old style Thai measuring a wire, which is basically what?
Well, depending on the height
About
of the individual, it could be 65 to 60.
about 10 cubits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
So there'll be a height of, there'll be giants.
what is that in meters?
But then again, the plants and everything will be so rich and
Yeah.
Large and
trees and nature and animals, everything will be huge. Because they'll be have reached their full potential. Nobody will be destroying nature, nobody lying, stealing, raping, killing. Everything gets a chance to reach its full potential.
No, I imagine life would be pretty easy actually.
Yeah,
Let's
of
say
course.
if we lived for like 200 years.
well, 80. I mean, to think 80,000. I get the sun still sets and
Oh,
rises
yeah,
and sets,
yeah,
rises
yeah.
and sets and sets in
Presumably.
days.
Presumably.
But oh my
Just
god!
imagine, because you know what? What's the
Oh.
average lifespan now? 75, 80 years, right?
That's yeah, 70.
Yeah, 75.
That means you have 7. That means you basically have. And then if you exclude your adolescent years, so
Now, in that time, when the next Buddha comes, 80,000 years, a girl has to be 5,000 years old before she's able to get married. Otherwise, she's still a kid.
So youthfulness is tremendously long.
Yeah. What about in the heavens? In the heaven realms?
Yeah, that's right. You said the average life is like eons, right?
Yeah, well, some of them, no. Some of them are many, like the lowest heaven, which is closest to the human realm. One day and one night in that realm is equivalent to 50 of our human years. And the lifespan in that realm would be 500 of their years. So over 1 million of our years, you know. That's the lifespan in that. And in these lower realms there are females and males. In some of the higher ones there's no difference.
There's no difference.
But in these lower heavens there's no children.
So
Why is that?
procreation
Because we're born.
doesn't exist. Yeah,
Yeah, only in the human realm and the animal realm are we born from eggs and grow up.
that's right.
You know, if you go to the hell realm instantly, you know, the hungry ghost realm instantly, the heaven realms instantly. There's no growing up.
Yeah.
You're a young adult. Now in the heavens, males are the physical, like a 20-year-old, you know, a fully grown male.
Yeah.
And they stay that way for their whole lifetime. No aging. Aging, suffering.
Right.
Females are like a 16-year-old girl. They stay the same way for a whole lifetime. No aging. No childbirth. How can they have childbirth? That's suffering. So any sex they have doesn't lead to procreation.